Right. We're going to chew on this for a while. Joining us, John Carney, great financial journalist, and our very own David Asman, Fox Business anchor. Gentlemen, welcome. John, yeah, it's bizarre. The whole thing's bizarre. It's interesting that Powell made those statements today. Never been quite so explicit. Now, the Washington judge ruled in the Fed's favor, but the U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who's our friend, great lady, she wants to appeal it. I'm just saying, I don't know the details of this thing, but it just seems to me to get Kevin Warsh running the Fed is more important than some Pyrrhic victory. I know the guy's inept. That doesn't mean he's a criminal. Okay?
I can tell you what.
And I know you want Trump to pardon him, all right, which is very clever, but I'm not sure that solves the Kevin Warsh problem.
It would definitely mean it was well and truly over for the president to issue a pardon. I do think they need to drop it. I think Powell's wrong on the law. The law does not make it clear that he can stay on as chairman once his chairmanship ends. In fact, when the Carter administration considered this way back in 1976, they said the president gets to appoint a chairman pro tem, not the board itself. That makes a lot of sense. We don't have government agencies that get to appoint their own heads. That would be wild. The president gets to appoint the person. It has to be a sitting governor. Maybe it would be Christopher Waller, maybe Stephen Myron, maybe Mickey Bowman, but it can't. But the Fed, first of all, Powell can't appoint himself as chairman forever. The board can't appoint their own.
That's what he wants to do.
That's what he said.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but when you listen to what he said today, he wants to appoint himself.
That's right.
That's what this pro tem stuff is all about.
It's got a whiff of blackmail about it. I mean, a strong whiff of blackmail. You know, that the only way you're going to get rid of me, and you know what I'm going to do, I'm going to fight you with every ounce of energy I have against lowering rates. The only way you can get rid of me is if you drop the lawsuit. Now, how does President Trump react to pressure like that? He doesn't just let it slide. That's what concerns me, because like you, Larry, I think that the overall importance of getting somebody like Kevin Warsh, who's not only got a rational view of where interest rates should be, but also understands the importance of a strong dollar.
Yes.
He has both of those things. There's nobody, as good as the other candidates are, they don't have that combination of being for the king dollar while at the same time being rational about interest rates and also being rational about growth, accepting the fact that President Trump is going to increase growth dramatically in this country, and that does not
5%.
mean we're going to have an increase in inflation.
Powell said that he wants the Justice Department to drop this investigation. He's not in charge of the Justice Department. People have been worried about Fed independence from the rest of the government. We now have to worry about the government's independence from the Fed. That's what's happening here. He's taking over the United States government. The Justice Department is now controlled by Powell.
He's an octopus power. But I want to come back to some substance here, because the market sold off even before Jay Powell appointed himself Fed chair forever. And I suspected, John, I mean, it's, in a sense, there's a de facto tightening in this Fed dot plot of projections. Pre-war, they were going to have 3 rate cuts. Now it's only 1 rate cut, maybe. They're pointing towards higher inflation. I don't think that was very harsh, and I think the market reacted, stock market particularly, reacted negatively to that. The other thing I want to say is, I don't think the Fed should make any decisions whatsoever right now. Because, and this part Powell sort of got right, but then he backed off. We don't know the duration and the timing of this war. I know the importance of this war and the absolute importance that America finished the job, that Mr. Trump finished the job with Israel. Okay, but we don't know exactly when. We don't know when oil prices are going to go back to what I would regard as normalcy, something close to $60 a barrel, maybe less than that, maybe more than that, but it's not going to be $100, $110. We don't know any of that stuff, okay? We do know that the economy was in a business boom pre-war. I just say, why is the Fed even hinting at a change in policy, okay? All of a sudden, it's adverse to cutting interest rates, okay? And it's worried. He says he's not worried about inflation. He's still obsessing about tariff inflation. That was over a year ago, for God's sake. You see what I'm saying? If you're going to keep your powder dry, then keep your powder dry, all right? If you're going to be the Fed chairman forever, that's a different matter, but that's not going to work. We are in a democracy, okay? We are in a democracy, and they should not be able to screw the economy.
What made the market panic before the Fed, Powell's Fed Forever statement was that the Fed increased its projected inflation for this year dramatically.
Yeah.
They should not have done that. You're absolutely right. Especially because a gas price increase is not really inflationary. It is, and we don't know how long this war is going to increase. It's probably deflationary because it will kill demand in other parts of the economy.
Notice they did that while increasing their future prediction about growth.
Yes.
Because once again, they're proving their knee-jerk reaction to stronger growth. Immediately, if you have stronger growth, you have to raise interest rates.
I wouldn't go crazy. They upped it to 2%.
Yeah, I
exactly.
think
but the point is that with the war question, which he wouldn't specifically answer, they went to their natural reflex, which is to increase or at least suggest no more than one rate cut.
What were you going to say?
I think they have the sign wrong. That, if anything, the war and higher oil has the potential to slow economic growth, which will be deflationary. They have it the opposite. They have growth increasing and more inflation. That's the wrong way of looking at this war.
That's right. That's what's so important.
And that's why the market slowed off, because it indicates that the Fed does not understand the economy at all right now. They're looking at it completely wrong. That's what freaked the market out, because people said, okay, these guys really don't see how this war is, if it lasts, how it's likely to affect the economy.
But I think his blackmail movement also sold, because we saw 300 points.
We tracked the timing, and it looked like about 300 points. I may be the only guy standing, but I will just say 3.5% growth of M2 is not going to cause a massive wave of inflation. Okay, Biden inflation was preceded by 30% growth in M2 with massive government spending. What's happening? Government spending has come down in its growth rate, and so is the money supply, as you might expect, and the dollar has actually improved in its value. So for all those reasons, again, this business about tariff inflation or war inflation, I don't buy it. I think there's a deflationary bias here, and once you return to normalcy, the inflation rate is going to fall like a stone. Doesn't he know? I mean, I don't understand what he's talking about. What planet is he on?
He's still buying. I mean, that's one thing that hasn't been talked about much. But Kevin, I don't think would have the same policy towards their portfolio that Powell does. I think he'd sell it off.
Has the White House responded yet to these statements? The president.
I mean, the president should.
He's going to get hold of it.
Once he hears from it, because Powell is blackmailing him. Powell is claiming that he can control what the Justice Department does. This is actually the biggest assault on the independence of the Federal Reserve in my lifetime, because Powell should say, it's not my business what the justice. The right thing to do is to say, the Justice Department will proceed under its, under its procedures. We don't think we did anything wrong. He can profess innocence, but not try to control whether or not the investigation goes on. That's outrageous conduct from a Federal Reserve chairman.
I'm looking for hashtag Powell blackmail, and I'm seeing a lot of things under ex post.
You know, you can be inept, but it's not criminal. It's
That's right.
And I'd like that to be the position of the administration. It's not yet, but I really look.
But this made it worse, Larry. It's harder now to back down because it looks like you're backing down to blackmail.
Jay Powell is confronting Trump. You're exact. Jay Powell is confronting the president. He's pulling his chain. That's exactly right.
I hope the president doesn't fall for it.
Well, we'll see. I know the president really, really loves and respects Kevin Warsh. I've spoken to him about it personally. It came up when we sat together for an interview a couple weeks back. The Senate Banking Committee really loves and respects Kevin Warsh. Tom Tillis, who's trying to block this because of the Fed independence issue, he likes Kevin Warsh. That's not the issue. The issue is what about the post-war economy? And after all, we should have we're going to have to figure out some Fed laws, okay? Somebody's going to have to carve this out, because Nobody knows. I mean, Jay Powell forever. I'm not ready for that. Anyway, John Carney.
Kevin Warsh now.
Kevin Warsh. What is it? Hashtag Kevin Warsh.
Hashtag free Kevin.
Free Kevin. That's what it is. David Asman, we're going to free him up. John Carney. Hashtag John Carney. Now let's.